Megan Hicks of I Run Far.
Hi, Dylan Bowman
Of I Run Far.
of I Run Far, sitting in for the one and only Brian Powell.
Sitting in for the Ginger.
Exactly, yeah.
We're here with the 2016 The North Face Endurance Challenge 50-mile championships women's pre-race interview show. It is Thursday. It is 2 days from race day, and we're bringing you a unique style pre-race interview format here. We have employed local sportscaster, budding journalist Dylan Bowman.
Thank you for the invitation to participate this weekend. It's a lot of fun.
Good morning. It is a thrill for me to be here and co-hosting this show with you.
The feeling is mutual.
So I'm in your homeland. We're actually sitting in the San Francisco Running Company. I don't know, what are we, a mile and a half from your house right now?
We are about a mile and a half from my house, about a mile and a half from the course too. So
you've also just self-proclaimed yourself as the future Mill Valley mayor.
Self-proclaimed future mayor of Mill Valley. Yes, hopefully I can enlist I Run Far in my campaign team to canvass the area when the time comes.
We'll be your canvassers. Yes. Well, we are just here to introduce the women's show today. We have 4 interviews coming up with 4 women's favorites. Who are we going to be seeing today?
Yeah, so we just finished talking to Megan Kimmel, the defending champion from Colorado. After that, we talked to Ruth Croft, Kiwi, who lives in Taiwan, and then Stephanie Howe, who's been on the podium here twice from Bend, Oregon, and then Nilsson, who's kind of a newer character, at least on the North American scene, but somebody who seems really impressive. So it was a lot of fun to talk to them all.
And you'll be seeing those interviews in just a minute. Just outside the back door of San Francisco Running Company here, and up the hill a little bit, we have the TNF 50 course. It's just right there. The course changes a little bit every year. Like, it's really hard to call a course record here because historically things have changed. And surprise, there's some changes this year. Yep. Can you talk about what we're going to see out on the race course in terms of those changes, and can you talk about the conditions out there right now?
Sure, yeah. So there's been course changes in 2 specific places. They're pretty minor changes, but I think it should speed the course up slightly. Okay. Just purely speculating, but I would guess the course is about 5-7 minutes faster than it was last year. Basically, they've removed 2 single track sections in the first 10-11 miles of the race and diverted those sections onto wider, faster fire road. It does add maybe 200 feet of vertical, but again, the terrain is such that I think that increase in climbing will be neutralized and then some by just how fast the terrain is that the runners will be traversing there early. And then to the conditions, yeah, I think the trails should be pretty much perfect. I mean, we have had some moisture, including yesterday. It rained a little bit, but it certainly won't be a mud year like we've experienced in the past. And with the forecast, being as it is, dry and cold, it should kind of make the trails probably pretty tacky, and the forecast is maybe 60 at the tops or at the upper end and sunny. So I think overall we're looking at really fast conditions. And historically there's always been a good weather year, bad weather year, good weather year, bad weather year. And this time we're getting 2 good weather years in a row. So I'm really excited to see how the race goes.
I always bring my biggest, baddest rain kit to this race. Yeah. And even though the weather forecast was good before I left home, I have it. Yeah. It'll probably be in the trunk of my car just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Just to clarify for people, because we really like to nerd out on the splits between different aid stations, the 2 changes are between the start and Tennessee Valley, and then Tennessee Valley to the runner's first pass through Muir Beach. Yep. And after that, the course runs the same.
Yeah, identical.
Okay, so it's fair to compare previous year's splits.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, I think the course will be a little bit faster this year, but not significantly.
Okay. One of the best parts about being friends with you and hanging out in the trail running community with you is that you just have a sportscaster style and you're very analytic about analyzing fields, how competitions went down. So it's a real pleasure to have you here, and I really want to hear your prognostication on the women's field. It's a deep women's field this year.
Yeah, it is. I think it's going to be a really interesting race, and thanks again for letting me be part of the coverage team. But yeah, I think, like I said, we interviewed 4 people today, all of whom I think have a legitimate shot to win or be on the podium. You can't go past the defending champion. I think Kimmel has proven that she has what it takes to win here. Obviously, she's also been on the podium another time.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What do you think about her? I mean, she had a hell of a season, but then she has sort of this blip on her radar with the Moab Trail Marathon a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes that's kind of what you need in order to get your priorities back and on the right track. She said that she had been doing a lot of work on her house, and that may have contributed to a subpar performance at the Moab Marathon. So who knows? Maybe she eased off a little bit on the home renovation. At least I hope so. Yeah. But I mean, she's talented enough to where even on a subpar day, she could win or be on the podium here. I also think that the fact that she's so good at the short distance really serves her well, because I'm of the belief that 50-mile racing is closer to sky racing than it is to 100-mile racing. The type of training that you need to do for those shorter races that she's so good at, I think translate really well to 50-mile racing in a way that maybe 100-mile training doesn't.
Okay.
So I think she's certainly, like I said, you can't go past the defending champion. Ruth Croft, I think, is also scary talented runner who finished 4th here last year and seems to have a little bit of a chip on her shoulder. Wasn't totally satisfied with a 4th place finish, which shows you that she's got high expectations for herself. I was really impressed with her when I met her at Tarawera last year, 2015, where she had an amazing ultra debut.
Ruth may have over-raced early last year. I mean, she went out hard, she chased Megan, and ultimately faded a bit at the end. I mean, she has just such a competitive air about her. Do you think she has the ability to be a teensy bit more patient?
Well, I don't want to spoil our conversation that we had, so we'll let our viewers watch that first. But I think she's got a different strategy this year, and we'll see if it pays off.
Cool.
And then beyond Claire, we spoke to Stephanie Howe, who's been an institution on the circuit for a long time.
An institution?
She's been well established and has proven that she can win the biggest races in the world with, a win at Western States, and she's been on the podium here twice. So she's coming off an injury, but seems to be in a really good headspace, which was good to see. And then Nilsson, I think, is kind of the wild card. I could easily see her winning. I mean, the performance that she's had this season on the European circuit have been really dominant. And not just on the European circuit, she was at the Rut 50K and won that by a very large margin as well. 2-time NCAA champion, which is highly impressive and something we don't really have.
Her raw leg speed is insane, right?
And then sort of in that same vein, Magda, I mean,
Olympic marathoner.
Who's a fan favorite, at least here locally, and I think pretty much wherever she goes.
I think she's a fan favorite wherever she goes.
Yeah, she's amazing. She won here a couple years ago too, so I'm really rooting for Magda. And then beyond that kind of core group, I think there's a couple of other interesting people. I mean, there's a lot of interesting people, but personally, I'm excited to see how Casey Enman does, who's never raced this distance in the past. At least I don't think. She's done a full 50 miles.
I think this is her first step up from 50K, isn't it?
And she finished second recently at the USATF 50K championship, which was here on a lot of the same trails, finishing second to Megan Roche, who is, very, very talented.
Local superstar, shorter distance stud.
And they had a battle of a race. It came down to the wire, and Megan got the best of her that day, but they were both under the previous course record, which had stood for like 15 years or something like that. So Casey Enman, I think, will be really interesting to see her run. If I didn't mention it, she was the world mountain running champion too, world champ,
Yeah.
so they don't just give those away, I don't think. So,
you have to earn those, don't you?
and then I think a newbie to keep your eye on, who I'll be excited to watch, is Claire Gallagher from Boulder, who put down an insane performance at Leadville this year in what was one of her first ultras. I think she had maybe done 2 or 3 before then. It was definitely her first 100. And if I'm not mistaken, the only person to run Leadville faster than Claire was a certain Ann Trayson. Yeah, so that's pretty impressive company to keep. And I think if Claire has done the right training, she could certainly be up there with the other people we mentioned.
Are you willing to put it out there and pick a Devo podium?
Yeah. If I had to guess, I'll go Ida for the win, Magda for silver, and Casey Enman for the bronze.
Ooh.
That's pure speculation.
I think there are some risky odds making there.
Yeah. Don't put money on it. It's impossible to predict.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move the show on and get on with it with our interviews.
Cool.
Thanks, Devo.
Thanks. Brian Powell of Iron Far here. Just kidding. This is Dylan Bowman here at San Francisco Running Company.
And I'm Megan Hicks of I Run Far. And we're here with Megan Kimmel, the 2015 The North Face Endurance Challenge 50-mile women's champion. Hey, Megan.
Hey, Megan. Hey, Dylan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Welcome back. So we were just talking, this is your 5th year in a row here, and you've run the gamut. You've had a DNF, and you've been the champion, and you've been in between a couple of times. So you're the defending champion this year. So what keeps bringing you back to this race?
What really keeps coming back, and what gets me on the plane to come here every single year is it's kind of what I've used as a test piece since the get-go. And so those were my thoughts coming into this one. I don't really know how I'm going to race with the training I've had for the past couple months, but I figure I'll find out, and it'll either be a big mistake in all honesty, or I'll fare better than I thought, or maybe I'll just be really surprised. I really have no idea this time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's been a little while since we've talked to you. I know Brian spoke with you at the Rut, but let's recap your season a little bit. You did the skyrunning thing a lot in Europe.
Yeah.
Talk about your summer.
It ended up being a lot of skyrunning. I picked up a couple different races just by chance and opportunity that were associated with the skyrunning series. And I went out to China twice. One was for the skyrunning.
Twice?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So those, the first one was totally planned. I was really excited to go out for that first running race out there, and that turned out great. And then I got an invite back to go just check out the Gobi Desert for a race. So those were a couple extra trips. That second one was extracurricular, so there wasn't a race involved. So that was actually a lot of fun to go on a running trip that that didn't have some intense race with it. So, and then other than that, I think it was mostly skyrunning. I had a really intense June where I did 4 races technically, kind of, in 3 weeks. And I crushed myself. Yeah. And then I did have a nice break, and I'm kind of having trouble actually remembering it all. Yeah.
You had quite a year. It was like the year of wins and runner-up performances in shorter sky distances, like in summary.
Yep, pretty much.
And then I saw you just a couple weekends ago on the Moab Trail Marathon course, where you were runner-up this year. And you said when you ran by me, "I'm so tired!"
I was really, really tired that week. I had a lot going on with this house project that I have been involved with for 2 months, and that was the worst week where I was busy for deadlines all week long. I was like laid out on my couch 2 days before the Moab race.
Like trying to recover, or
yeah, just huge back pain from physical labor. It's kind of like what everyone knows not to do before your race, you know, gardening, physical labor in general. Yeah,
drinking beer.
Drinking beer, recovery beers, a lot of them at night. So I went to that race and I just felt horrible all day. Like I never got going in the morning, and yeah, I ran it really slow in comparison to my 2 previous years, and that was no surprise, but it was fun to be out there anyways, it always is.
Cool. So yeah, as we kind of touched on, you're more well known for shorter distance races, sky races, you know, mostly up to 50K, and this seems to be kind of the longest race that you do during your season. And for most of your competitors this weekend, you know, most of them have done, you know, a handful of ultra races. So I was curious to know if you think that might be kind of an advantage that you might have in terms of this being the longest race of your season, whereas some people may be a little bit more tired. I know you race a lot. Or if you think it might be kind of a disadvantage because you don't race a lot of ultras. Just kind of curious to get your thoughts on that.
I think the advantage of it is that I'm fresh for it. I'm not like, oh no, they're ultra, you know, it's been a whole year since I have done that distance, even though I've done some almost ultra distances within the sky running realm. But yeah, this is the longest in like a mileage and duration for sure. So freshness, I think, is definitely an advantage. But I think, yeah, you know, in my head, I'm just kind of, well, at this point I feel pretty solid within finishing the 50 miler. Like I don't have a lot of concern about that. But I can't say that I've got it all dialed yet. I think maybe I'm somewhere in the middle where like I've done enough of them now that I have the confidence and maybe I now have the freshness that it might be exactly what I need to do well at this one this time. So, but yeah, you know, it's a different round for me compared to the rest of my year. And more than anything, it is the end of my season of a lot of racing. So I think that some girls are maybe coming in here quite a bit fresher. So, you know, because normally if you're doing a lot of ultra races, you're not racing that much. So I think some people could be coming in with some really good preparation while I'm just like, oh man, this is my last race of the season, and this is, for me, just kind of a season finale more than anything else.
Cool. And in the same vein, talking about the other girls coming in, because of the fact that you don't race a lot of ultras, you probably don't race a lot of the people that you're going to be seeing this weekend throughout the course of the year. Do you have like an idea of the people who you kind of need to be concerned about, or do you not concern yourself with kind of looking at the competition before the race?
Yeah, in general, I don't even concern myself with the competition because you never know, like, who's going to come. You might not even know them.
And then it changes at the last minute.
Changes at the last minute, or just that just someone you don't know, like, is ready and primed for the race and hits it, you know. So, but of course, I know Magna's going to be here, and Ruth had a really great race last year, so I'm assuming she's still on the roster for starting. And but yeah, the rest of the gals, I'm just like, I don't know who they are, but you always expect them to be the winner, you know.
You have sort of a descending order of performance here. I mean, you started out a little rough.
Or ascending, depending on how you look at it.
Right. And you always seem to run sort of with the same style. You take it out hot, you take it out aggressive, and you're either the pace setter or one of the pace setters, at least in the past, until you can no longer do that anymore. Yeah. Last year you took it out hot, you were setting the pace for the girls, you stuck it. Is that what we're going to expect to see out of you on Saturday?
Yeah, I hope so. I probably you're coming that far from me. It's really important with I guess just racing in general, in most races, it's pretty important for me to keep an eye on the leader, which is actually really hard at this race because it's in the dark for the first hour.
Yeah.
But
all those dudes.
All the men, yeah.
yeah, and all the men. So I do like to start up front, and that also kind of gives me a gauge on how I'm actually feeling for the day, because I like to be at that level. Like I come out here to be up at the front of a race. I mean, I can't say I always come to races for that reason, but the majority of them I do. So if I'm not really up there, then I don't want to say I'm not reaching my objective, but for a lot of races I'm just not reaching my objective. So
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah, we'll see.
So I hate to harp on, the fact that you're such a strong short distance runner, but I've kind of been curious to know if
Play the harp, Dylan.
if you ever, or if you have ambition to ever kind of focus on doing longer races for a season, because when I look at somebody like you or like Joe Gray, for instance, who are both very successful shorter distance trail racers, it's kind of scary to think about kind of what you could do if you did focus on it kind of full time. So are you ever thinking about doing that, or are you content racing more often, doing the shorter races, traveling more, things like that?
Yeah, no, this is actually kind of what I've had as the end of 2016 is kind of what I figured it to be kind of the end of my short distance racing, and 2017 is what I figured would be going into more ultras, for the reason of kind of so like in general with short distance you do race so many more races and there's a lot more travel involved, and I'm looking to just kind of mellow out a little bit and be around home and kind of create more of a home life, which is really hard to balance out with a lot of short distance racing, especially if they involve a lot of traveling to other countries. So yeah, for quite a while now this has been my transition time, and so I am having a hard time leaving the short distance, and I won't totally leave it, but I'm now looking forward to kind of taking it into the direction of the ultras, but at that I'm kind of like going to take the baby step into like mids before hopping into my first
Tour de France next year.
Yeah.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, not for this one.
Cool. Well, good luck this weekend. Thanks for coming over and chatting with us this morning. Again, you're the defending champion, and we wish you the best. It looks like we have a great forecast, and it should be a fun day.
Yeah, I think 60 degrees, so it might be the nicest TNF
In history.
in history. Thank you guys both very much.
Cool.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Dylan Bowman here with I Run Far, sitting in for Brian Powell.
And I'm Megan Hicks of I Run Far, and we're here at the San Francisco Running Company in Mill Valley, California. It's a couple days before the 2016 The North Face Endurance Challenge 50-mile championships. And we're with Kiwi Ruth Croft. We're also over-caffeinated. Good morning.
It's only 8 a.m. How's it possible? Right.
Well, welcome.
Thanks.
It's good to have you back in California. Now,
Yeah.
you're a Kiwi,
Yeah.
but you live in Taiwan,
Yeah, I do.
and you spent your summer in Europe,
Yeah.
and you went to school in Portland,
Yes,
right? So
that's
you're
correct.
quite international.
You've done your homework.
Yes. I did my research prior to sitting in today.
His journalism
But-
debut.
Cool. So you're back in the U.S.
Yeah,
This
I
is your first time back since the race last year? Or
Yeah,
no?
this is my first time back.
Cool. And you've been here for a little while, it looks like.
I got here last Saturday, and was in LA, and we went to see some friends, Justin Howe,
Mm-hmm.
and saw Chris and Alicia, and saw him in Arizona. Yeah, and then came up 2 days ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're making a little trip out of it.
Yeah, I don't like to just fly out race,
Mhm.
because it takes me about 5 days to get over jet
Mhm.
lag and start feeling normal again. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that's smart. Well, you've had a great year this year. You finished third at Transvolcania earlier in the year, which is kind of the European equivalent to the North Face 50-miler.
Yeah.
And then obviously you finished second at Kima, a notoriously difficult and technical race.
Yeah.
You also won a 50K there in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about your season and kind of how it set you up for this race?
My season, to be honest, I got to Europe and I had actually planned to do some other races, but I did Sears and Howe and it didn't really go well. My fitness wasn't really where I wanted to be. It had been really hot this summer in Taipei, and so I just found it had really affected my training. So I got over to Europe and did Sears and Howe, and I'd talked about doing Kimmel before I went out to Europe, but we decided with John, who's my coach, that it wasn't a good idea because I hadn't run on anything that technical. I didn't have the chance to train, and it's also a little bit at altitude, so we said no, we wouldn't do it. So Sears and Howe went bad, and then, well, not great, and then I did Matterhorn, the 30k the week later. And then I just decided like I had the opportunity to do Kimmel, and it's such an awesome race. And only held once every 2 years, so I decided I'd just give it a go. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So do you feel like it set you up for good race here? You feel
well, those races like Kimmel and Glencoe like
different.
Totally different.
Okay.
Like just you're on chains, you're like scrambling, and so I think you're out there for 8 or 9 hours, but not exactly running 8 or 9 hours. But yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope it's set me up for this weekend. We'll find out. Yeah.
You're back. You were here last year.
Yeah.
You're the returning 4th place runner.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of feedback on your experience here last year and maybe like what has drawn you back all the way across the ocean, across time zones, across international date lines to do this all again?
Well, one, it's the timing of the race.
Okay.
And it's a good one to finish the season on. Also, I just felt last year, I don't know, when you do a race for the first time, you kind of learn a lot about it and how you can do it better the next time. So I think it took a lot away from last year and hope I can improve on it this year. Yeah.
So what is it that you think you can improve? Because when I saw you in the race last year, I think you were in 2nd on the out and back, and you finished 4th. So you slipped a little bit in the second half of the race. What happened there, and how do you think you can improve?
I blew up in it was at the last aid station. Pretty bad.
A lot of people blow
Like
up there.
before the last climb?
Yeah, I went through the aid station, and then right after the aid station, I got passed by Ali and Marissa.
Just on the last climb?
Yeah. It's such a runnable course, and I'm not used to that as well, and I wasn't expecting it to be so like that. So I think you start off quite fast, and I need to be more conservative because those hills just like keep coming, and by the end, if you have gone out too fast, it just catches up on you, like what happened last year.
Yeah, you took it out pretty hot. You were, within seconds of the lead for quite a distance of the race.
Yeah. But then, I think it just pays to be more conservative at the beginning, and then start to try and push it in the second half. Yeah.
So if we're seeing you like 4th, 5th place early on, is that where you're thinking maybe you want to be, or is it like I want to try to keep in visual contact, or how are you going to approach trying to start more conservatively at this race?
Just probably be back a bit further and just not be in a rush to be up and have contact with the lead ones.
Okay.
Because it is a long race, and it really pays to be more conservative.
Okay.
Well, speaking of long races, last year you did a couple 100-kilometer races. You had an awesome kind of ultra debut, I think, at Tarawera when you and Ruby Muir had quite a battle. She got the best of you that day, but then you had an astonishing run at CCC last year in 2015, where you won the race in a crazy fast time, and you beat Magdalena Belay, who's sort of a local legend here in the Bay Area, and I think you were the only person to actually get the better of her in the 2015 season. So maybe talk a little bit about sort of that year and how like your progress has been through ultra running.
So Tarawera was my first ultra, and so I think once I got that out of the way, just figured out like nutrition and all that thing. And then with Europe, I think I was just lucky. I planned it out really well. I had a good five-week block over there before CCC to like, just get used to training in the Alps and that. And so I think it was and on race day, just everything went really well. It was just one of those races where I felt really good from start to finish, and that was it pretty much.
Cool.
You live in Taipei, in Taiwan, which is a gigantic metropolis. I think my question will ring familiar with a lot of people around the world who try to be trail runners, or who are trail runners but who live with not like the best access to trails. Can you talk about your life in Taipei? what your sort of usual running schedule is like. Are you spending a fair bit of time on the roads, or do you get out to trails? What's it like?
So it's not like Hong Kong. Like Hong Kong, the trails are really accessible, like right at your door. Taipei is not quite like that. It's tough. I have a couple of training partners, and we train in the morning, and it's along the riverside, and we'll go up some some hills and that. But during the week, it's quite a lot of road. Yeah, and then in the weekend, I'll try and get on trails, but. There's one national park in Taipei, but even so, it's not trail. It's like cobbled, like steps as well.
But with like green things around you.
Yeah. Well, actually, Taipei is pretty green. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. But of course, it's not ideal for training. But you make the best of what you've got. And I think the hardest thing for a lot of runners coming from Asia is just the heat in summer, and which is what I've struggled with a lot this year. Is just you're constantly in humidity. Like even we had a 50k in Hong Kong, and it was just it was 90% humidity, and so you're just losing so much water. And I found like this year I'd get to work at like midday and I just getting this massive headache because it's so hard it's so hard to replace all that sweat, and also your body the recovery just slows down so much. So I don't know, it's not the best, but I've got a lot of support from like Garmin and just like a lot of different training centres and that. So make it work.
Make it work.
Yeah.
Cool. So like I mentioned, you have a background running on the track and cross country. You went to
University of Portland.
University of Portland. So you have a lot of experience doing faster, shorter stuff.
Yeah.
You've proven that you're also great in the more technical mountain courses. And you obviously have skill on the faster, flatter courses.
Yeah.
Do you kind of have a preference between the two? This course here is sort of in between. I mean, it's relentlessly hilly, but super fast. Maybe talk a little bit about your opinion of those kinds of courses.
I definitely prefer like something like CCC, where there's like really runnable sections, but then there's also some really technical sections. Like, to be honest, I find the North Face for me it's quite fast, and don't really enjoy it when you don't have that breakup of like hiking and stuff like that. But then if you go to like Kimmel and that, it's the opposite, and for me it's like way too technical. I enjoy it, like it was awesome to do, but it's not. I didn't feel like I was comfortable. I was like could really relax. Yeah.
Last question for you. You're a brand new Scott athlete.
Yeah.
What shoes are you wearing on Saturday?
I'm wearing the Super Track RC.
Awesome.
The one that you've probably seen.
Brand new.
Yeah.
And this is a shoe not a lot of people have seen yet. It's brand new, so can you describe it?
So I wore it in like Kimmel, and so it's awesome on like rock on all surfaces, like if it's slippery, if it's dry, and what else? I don't know. I'm terrible at
Traction.
Right? Traction. Really good traction.
That shoe's all about the traction, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's pretty lightweight as well. And so it's a good one.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, good luck.
Awesome. Thanks.
Hopefully you have a better experience than the last 10K.
Yeah, hopefully.
And
the final climb treat you well.
Yeah.
So,
weather looks favorable too, so
yeah,
it should be a good one.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck, Ruth.
Cheers.
Megan Hicks of I Run Far.
Dylan Bowman, also of I Run Far.
We're here in Mill Valley, California. It's a couple days before the 2016 The North Face Endurance Challenge 50-mile championships. I'm with Stephanie Howe. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back to racing.
Thank you. It's been a while.
The last time we saw you race was last year's UTMB.
Yep.
And you have been on, pardon my language, a hell of a ride since then.
It's been a year.
Yeah. Talk about what's been happening in your world.
Well, where to start? Do you want the long story?
Start with the injury. Tell us
Okay,
about that.
Start with
the injury. So I'm not sure when it started, but my left Achilles and heel would always get really tight after a race. Like I would limp around for like days after. And then I remember like just one day it just didn't go away. It was just like there. And so for a whole year every time I ran, it was just like bothering me. And it got to the point where after Western States in 2015, I couldn't really train. I couldn't run more than like 10 miles without suffering the next day.
Okay.
So I just like made it through the fall, ran UTMB, didn't go super well, and then was just frustrated and decided for surgery.
So you went abroad.
Yeah, I went to Sweden to see Dr. Alfredsson. He's done a number of runners, and it was a great experience. So the surgery was something that was going to happen, I think, no matter what. And so I did it, and the recovery was supposed to take about 3 months. And I'm like a really like numbers person. Like you tell me the time, you tell me a number, I'm like, good, I got this. So I'm like
11:52 a.m. 3 months from now.
Yeah, no, I like marked it on my calendar. It was like March 16th, like you should be good. And so that was like in my mind. I was like, I just need to make it through these 3 months and then I'll be good. And I got to that 3-month deadline and it was sort of better, but just not great. But I had thought like, okay, so I'll have 3 more months then to train for Western States. And that race just means a lot to me. So I really wanted to do it. So in my mind, you know, I had to get there. I had to do this. So I maybe jumped back into training too soon. And I kind of saw, like I thought like in my mind, after surgery, you're healed, right? So you can pick up where you left off. And I learned that sort of the hard way, that no, you have to actually kind of start over. And what you thought was your normal before, you have a totally new normal. So long story short, I started training, I tried to make it to Western States, and I got a stress fracture. And it wasn't really surprising because the whole previous year when I was running, my right leg would get sore. Like it was working a lot harder trying to compensate for the injury I had. And so
Which was on your left side.
Which was on my left side. So yeah, one day I woke up after I went to the Memorial Western States training camp.
Yeah.
It was great. Well, it wasn't great.
And you ran all of the miles there, didn't
I
you?
ran all of the miles. It was tough for me, but I made it, and I was really like, okay, you're getting there. And then I flew to Boston, did a short run, and I felt this tweaky feeling in my hip flexor. And turns out it was a stress fracture in my lesser trochanter, which is a really weird spot. It's not load bearing, which is good, but it meant like the torque. So I was just overusing my right leg. So anyways, there goes my whole summer. And honestly, at that point, I realized I needed to do something different. Like, okay, you need to reset. So I just kind of let it go. And I actually had a great summer. I didn't run. I didn't like do any cross training. I wasn't trying to like train for a race. I just let it all go and did things like normal people stuff.
You did normal things?
I did normal
What are
things.
normal things?
What feels your day?
I know. It took me a while, but like I do a little bit of art, so I did that. I really like to cook, so I spent more time doing that. I traveled a bit, not for like adventure travel, but I went to see my best friend from high school. I visited my parents. We went canoe camping in the Boundary Waters. Just like stuff like that, like simple things, like took my dog for a walk when I could walk. And then like I realized when I got back to training again, like things felt good. And when I say training, I mean like back to running, back to just like, you know, going out and just feeling it out. And so for this race, this is the least, I don't want to say the least prepared, but the least serious I've ever been leading up to a race. I've really just wanted to be healthy. So I've done what felt good, which means running maybe 3 days a week, sometimes 4 lately, but I feel healthy, which is super important to me. And I just learned a lot over this last year. You never wish for an injury, but in some ways it was so good for me because I have perspective.
So do you think that you benefited a lot from having like the very deep rest of having, you know, nearly a year off from racing?
Definitely. I think it helped. I mean, if I had anything else going on, like it better have healed by now. But just for personal growth, I think it really helped me just as a person and kind of see what's important to me. And I mean, for running to me, you know, I want to do it for a long time. I don't want to just get these really good results for like 2 years and then be done. I want to do it my whole life.
Good. So do you feel 100% confident in your foot?
Oh yeah. All my injuries are great. Like my body feels good. It's just I feel a little bit like, ooh, racing. What's that?
Yeah, we want to ask you about that. You are the sweetest, nicest, most competitive person.
That's a good way to describe it.
You have top finishes here. You have 2 podium finishes. Are you here to race? Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here to do my best,
Okay.
for sure. But I think just knowing how this past year has gone, I have let go of a lot of that. Like, you know, coming into this race, of course I want to do well. And normally I'd be like gunning for a podium spot. But I've learned that my body can only do what it's going to do right now. And I feel this is a tough race to come back to in this state. But I'm just going to be happy and truly just be happy to finish.
Okay.
That said, I'm going to do my best. Like, I am going to be racing, but I'm also not going to be hard on myself if my body is just not, you know, I don't know what's going to happen after 30 miles. Like, hopefully everything's still going, but.
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, exactly. Like, once the gun goes off, I think I'll be in my zone.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
Well, speaking of being in the zone, you have raced recently. You did a local 50K near where you live in Oregon, and it seems like that went pretty well. You won the race. You nearly beat your husband. It looked like.
Yeah,
Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
I know. Yeah.
So tell us about that. Did you give it like a proper effort, or was it more of just a reintroduction?
Well, yeah. So it was totally spontaneous. Zach needed to do the race because he wanted a point for UTMB. So I was like, oh, I'll do it with you. And we were gonna just run together, but he decided he wanted to race. So I was like, fine, go off. But I almost caught him at the end. And I had a good day. I mean, that was kind of a push for me to run that far at that time. I ran kind of medium hard and it went well. So that was a great confidence booster. I'm like, okay, my body is healthy enough to do this. I think I can run 50 miles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good to hear. So,
Go for it.
sort of, you know, in the same vein, because this is kind of your reintroduction to serious racing, if you can call it that, I'm wondering if you are now kind of hoping to continue your momentum. You'd spoken off camera about how you guys are about to go to New Zealand. So I was wondering if you were going to use this to kind of springboard into next season, or if you're going to kind of take the winter easy and then get back into racing.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out now. I'm going to see how this race goes, and then if it goes well, I do have a goal of getting back into Western States. That's kind of, it's just something I want to do again this year. So I'm probably going to pick one of the earlier season golden ticket races. And the one I pick will depend on how this goes. But looking at one of the first 3.
Cool.
And then I do want to have a ski season because I missed the entire ski season last year. So I do think I'm going to have to take some downtime, but I'd prefer to like race through January, February, and then take the time off, or not time off, but less serious running, and then prepare for Western States, hopefully.
Last question for you. I've seen you at this race in epic weather.
Oh, yes.
Covered in mud, like slip sliding your way around. Like, fingers crossed, we have a good forecast. There may actually be views. What are you looking forward to out on the
Well,
course?
I will say I'm cursed by this race. I've never run the full course. So every time I come here, it rains horizontal the entire time. So I wouldn't say I love that, but that weather favors me. Just, I've grown up in places with kind of harsh weather conditions, and just we run through it. So
Minnesota for the win.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, I'd be psyched to have a sunny day where I don't have to like wear a rain jacket and just like huddle down the whole time. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm here, so chances are it's going to be rainy.
Something will happen.
It's not going to be rainy.
No.
It's going to be an ideal day. The forecast says 57 and sunny.
that
It'll be
sounds so
chilly in the
great.
morning, but yeah, I don't think it'll be wet or hot in any way. So I think it'll be actually really fast conditions.
Yeah.
So
Well, I've been running snow in Bend just to prepare for like, I'm like, snow is kind of like mud. So
Yeah.
yeah, but sun would be nice too. I'll take it.
Well, one more question while we're on the subject of snow. I noticed you have kind of been skiing a little bit now, and you've been riding your bike a lot. You said you've been running, 3-4 days a week.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that has helped you kind of work on your fitness without necessarily putting all the pressure and physical abuse of running in your body?
So much.
Yeah.
So I used to be more of a multi-sport athlete. Like before I was a runner, I just did a little bit of everything. And I think that's a better way for me to train. When I started running more competitively, I started running 6 days a week. And I think I'm going to get back to more of a cross-training mix of running and cross-training because I think it does take that pressure off my body. And I'm someone who needs that break. So I think it was really great, and I just kind of did what I felt like. And this has been an interesting, like, as I said, training up for this race. Normally I do like a workout, I do a long run, it's very structured, and this has been not like that. It's been very much like just run easy. So I haven't done any workouts, which we'll see how that goes, but one thing that I did focus on a lot was strength training, and actually was working with a strength coach, and I've never done that before, but it was really cool to I had to relearn how to use my body basically and start using my glutes, because a lot of my problems come from not using muscles as they should. So that's been a big part of helping me get healthy, and I feel really good. But cross training has been awesome.
Well, you sound awesome. You sound
I'm
really excited.
I'm so happy to be here.
So happy to be here.
You guys have no idea. I'm probably gonna cry at the finish because it's just this race just means a lot to me to be here.
Good.
And
Have your
run.
tissues, kids.
I know.
Stephanie's coming.
Cool. Well, good luck.
Thank
We're excited
you.
to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah, best of luck. And it's a real pleasure for us to get to welcome you back to trail running.
Thank you.
And it's this type of energy, like this jubilant competitiveness, that is really exciting to document. So I'm overjoyed for you to be back here.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Hello again. This is Dylan Bowman with I Run Far.
And I'm Megan Hicks of I Run Far.
This is our fourth and final interview here on Thursday here at SFRC. We're here with Ida Nilsson. Ida, welcome to California. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm well.
Good.
You are Swedish, but you are not unfamiliar with the U.S. UNT University here.
Yes, in Flagstaff, Arizona. Yeah.
Right. We want to talk to you about your history with collegiate running before getting into ultra running, but before that, let's talk a little bit about your season. You've had quite a year. There was some high highs and a bit of a low this fall. We saw you win Transvolcania this spring, which was a heck of a blast off to 2016.
Yes, it was a great start, and I got a really great introduction to sky running, and I love the race over there. So, yeah, it was.
You kind of spent your summer sky running, right?
Yes, I did a little bit of everything. I've done a few road races also, but mostly running in the mountains.
I mean, this is a sort of a whole new thing for you, running these technical courses up high in the mountains. What has 2016, that experience, been like for you?
Been really fun. I've tried some more extreme races that I can't really handle yet, like the Dolomites, and and then some easier ones like Transvolcania was nice. It's still some technical parts in the downhill, but for me it's races I can handle. But it's good to practice and always get better. Both to be fast in the uphill and then go down fast also.
We last saw you race in September when you ran and won the Rut 50K, but I think that day wasn't the best one for you. You might have started feeling an injury that day?
I felt great during the race,
Okay.
actually. It was the day after, or right after the race, I started to feel some pain in the leg, and I thought maybe I missed a bit sore after the race, and I took some days off, and I got a lot of different treatments, but nothing really help. So I thought I would have time. I had 3 weeks to do Ultra Pyreneo to get healthy again, but it just got worse and worse. So actually I had 2 months with no running, and yeah.
And ultimately, did they figure out what your injury was, or?
Yes, not completely. Like I had my guesses, and some people had some guesses, and it was, I think, more muscles and nerves, and it wasn't anything in the bone at least. So I was happy about that, but it was hard to figure out, and I did a lot of small different stuff that helped, and also just the rest, and it got well again.
Just keeping off it a little bit.
Cool. Well, rewinding, we already mentioned that you went to Northern Arizona University. It looked like you had a quite successful college career. You were a 2-time NCAA champion, right?
Yes, that's right.
And what were your events? What was your strength?
I did the steeplechase, and the 5K was my main things here.
Great. And I saw also that you dealt with a pretty serious injury sort of after your college career. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It seems like it kind of took you out of the sport for a few years.
Yes, it did. Like when I finished college, I wanted to really go for running, and I moved back to Sweden, and but the problems started, and I got a lot of injuries, and I coming back all the time. But then finally I got a serious hip injury, and then I felt like I had to completely stop, and it took 4 or 5 years for me until it healed up. So.
And so then you came back in about 2013, started racing again, and is that kind of when you picked up ski mountaineering as well?
No, yeah, actually it was the last summer was my first summer really racing again. So and ski mountaineering was also, I started 3 years ago. I moved up north in Sweden, and then I love to have the snow and the mountains, so I started to do that, and a bit more cross-country skiing. But it was actually last winter when I moved to Chamonix and doing the World Cup. I really learned the sport, and
And is it true that Emily Forsberg kind of motivated you to try ski mountaineering and kind of encourage you to participate in the racing scene in the European circuit?
Yeah, like not in the first place. I was just in a place, and I started to try it on, and I did a few small races in Sweden. But then she helped me a lot last winter when I moved to Chamonix, and just really patient and great to have someone to learn from.
Yeah.
And
one of the best too.
Yes.
You've come to San Francisco before as a tourist or as a visitor during your time at Northern Arizona University. Is that how you ended up here before?
Yes, I've been here once just visiting. Like I was doing a race in Stanford, and then I went I've seen a few things like Chinatown, and I think I went to this north. But I've never seen this area where the race is. So just driving over here today, it looks beautiful in the distance, all the hills and mountains. So yeah, it looks great.
What's brought you to target the North Face 50 as I don't know if this is your season wrap up or if this is going to be you kicking off a new year, but how'd this get on your hit list?
I really felt like now, and I couldn't do the Ultra Pyreneo, and I had no really finish for my season, so I would like to do one more race, and so this will be my final running race, and then for a few months I will just focus on ski mountaineering, and then starting to run again in the spring.
Cool, and as Megan mentioned, you've had a really successful running season this year. You won Transvolcania, which is kind of the equivalent of the North Face 50 Mile Championship in Europe. You also won the Mont Blanc Marathon and the Rut 50K, all by rather large margins. Does that give you a lot of confidence going into this race? Are you comfortable now with races of this distance, about 80 kilometers?
I wouldn't say comfortable, because still I have just done like Transvolcania, and one race last year, Ultra Vasan, that is actually this distance. So it's still new for me, and especially now when I haven't been running so much. Like I started to feel comfortable in the longer distances more this summer, and But I feel more comfortable now after 3 good weeks of training with both skiing and running. So I feel more fit than I was a month ago. I felt very unfit and I wouldn't be comfortable running this. So we will see how it goes. Like, it's been quite rushed training now. Like, I trained a lot for 3 weeks, so we'll see if it's how it's going to be.
Good. And obviously this is kind of like the end of the season party here, at least on the North American Ultra Circuit. It's one of the most competitive races of the year. You probably haven't raced a lot of the women that are going to be at the front of the pack on Saturday. Are you familiar with any of the other runners? Do you look at the start list at all? Are you going to be keying off anybody in the race?
No, I don't know too many of the other women. I mean, I've met Megan a few times, and I know, of course, she's going to be very strong, and it's a lot of other strong women. But since I'm quite new, I'm getting to know more and more people all the time. Every race is very nice. I get more friends and get to know more people, so it's good.
So I don't know if I've seen you race enough to sort of see your style, but when I've watched you race, you've kind of gone off the front, and I don't know if that's because you just have more like raw leg speed than the rest of the field, or if your style is to go out hard and push it early. Like, have you thought about strategy for this weekend?
I think this race will be nice because I think it's actually possible to run more in the pack if you want to. Because I feel like some of the sky races it's not really possible to run that even, because even people have like they're good in the uphill or downhill, and it's never like you really run in a pack like you do in a road race or on the track. So sometimes I can miss that feeling, and I think actually this is a kind of race where you would be able to run a little bit more together. So it could be nice maybe that we can keep together in the beginning, and it's a long race to just go by yourself.
That's interesting you said that, because Megan and I were talking about that yesterday, and that a lot of times at this race, the men's race is very pack oriented, where you might see 5, 7, 10 guys together early, maybe through halfway, and we haven't ever seen that in the women's field. So it'd be interesting. I think we have the depth and the sort of level of competition to see that potentially this year, which I think would be really cool and exciting.
You're a Solomon runner, and from among your team we have multiple previous champions of the North Face 50. In the girls we have Emily Forsberg and Anna Frost. Have the girls given you information on what to expect and what it's going to be like out there?
Yeah, of course I talked to Emily now because we just spent 3 weeks together training. So
ski training or ski and run?
I have been running also. She joined me for some runs, and we actually did a small race together also in France. But mostly skiing, and then I've tried to do this afternoon runs. Just been on the road up and down, but I mean good. But she thinks it's like, oh, it will suit you so well because it's not technical at all for her. We'll see. But I think I will enjoy the course. I like when it's running the whole time. For me, that's the best, when you don't have to hike too much.
The girl wants to run, just let her run, okay?
And so you said you've already sort of started training for the upcoming ski mountaineering season. Do you think that as soon as you finish a race, this weekend, that you'll jump straight into ski mountaineering season? Or will you take a little bit of downtime prior to racing?
I will, of course I need an easy week after, but then I will ski again a lot and prepare for the World Cup. And I will see. I mean, I have to recover until my body feels fresh again. But I think it's good, to start with something new, and it's more easy for the body in some ways to not have the pounding. So that will be good.
Well, good luck on Saturday. It's great to have you here. I think you'll really enjoy the course and the trails here in the Bay Area, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Good luck, Ida.
Thanks.
Okay.
We are back.
We're back. We hope you liked it. Obviously, this is a new format for I Run Far interviews. We hope that you guys enjoyed the kind of new format and what all the women had to say. I was really impressed with all 4 of them. And thanks also to San Francisco Running Company, obviously, for opening their doors to us this morning. We're going to do the same thing tomorrow.
With the men.
So stay tuned for that. But yeah, thanks. It was really fun.
Thank you also to Dylan Bowman for co-hosting today. And thank you to the North Face for sponsoring I Run Far's coverage of the 2016 The North Face Endurance Challenge 50-mile championships. See you on Saturday. Let me pull up my notes about Miss Kimmel.
Uh-oh. Notes.
Don't worry. We won't do good cop, bad cop style interrogation.
Are
Right.
you sure? This is
Tell me about your training!
Dylan and I's first interview together. I mean, it could go any direction,
Oh,
right?
this is gonna be great. We're gonna
Me
do
in the
awesome.
middle.
We're gonna do awesome.
All right,
Action.
go for it, boss.